we're in a very different situation, Abdikadir. It's unprecedented where we are as a country. And I would imagine that even when we converge in such a setting where we have, you know, 4 lawmakers, we are utilizing national frequencies, airtime, maybe we might even want to rethink how we do our conversations. Because at times, subjective conversations are not taking this country forward. We need to now ask ourselves, even the conversations that we are having, even in forums like this, are they objective conversations that would take the country forward? For example, you bring up the issue of utterances that are public utterances. Of course, it must be condemned when a leader will get up on a platform and say unpalatable things in public. However, even as we are condemning these politicians, we've got to ask ourselves, how did the country get to a place where we are competing on a race to the bottom? That we are encouraging ourselves to have debates that degrade ourselves to a level where we cannot even recognize ourselves as a country. How about if we got such forums, we were discussing ideas on how we would take this country forward, so that where government is, government cannot be averse to criticism. It cannot be averse to critiques. But whoever is criticizing or critiquing, what is that better alternative they're offering? And I want to imagine that people like the Honorable Richard Onyonka were old enough to live in a time when the country was even in worse situations like this. And I'm talking about places like the Moi era. But if you look at the opposition in that era, they would organize themselves into a quasi-government, where you have a shadow attorney general, you have a shadow prime minister, you have ministers holding dockets. And when they come to the government for a critique, they will say, you have an idea in housing, for example. Your idea fails on certain and certain parameters. However, we have a solution that we are offering, and the solution we are offering is that where you are going, you're inadequate on a certain area, we are proposing this. However, coming back to the issue of utterances, I've got to say this without any fear of contradiction, that there is nothing that the Kenyan politician is doing that everybody else is not doing. And that does not justify it.
For example?
Today, the doctor of today is not the doctor of yesterday, a doctor who is committed to their hypocritical oath and so on. We've got to call out malperformances all around. We know today there is a doctor who will diagnose you according to the level at which his construction of the house has gotten to. Okay. So today, if he's preparing to put out the slab, your diagnosis will be according to what he would like to reap from you today. We have teachers who are not up to the standard of which a mentor or an instructor should be up to. We have lawyers who are chasing ambulances and stealing from the dead and people who are injured out of insurance money. So this conversation cannot be held in isolation. It's a country conversation.
All right.
And the last thing I wanted to say about this is, of course, we have to talk to ourselves about what system of governance we have chosen. We agreed as a people that we want to go the democracy way. Okay. The democracy way has its parameters. And when we talk about democracy, we've got to have the limits that into which we are confined into, because when we lack those limits and imagine that everything is an absolute freedom, then the opposite of it is anarchy, where everybody is a lord unto themselves.